Hey everyone, today we have a wonderful guest. We have Sonia with us, and Sonia has her own YouTube channel called The Tree of Knowledge. Now, it is an incredibly interesting channel. When I first came upon it, Campbell from Autodidactic sort of hooked us up, connected us. And so I went over to have a look, and I was really blown away by the content, because I think sometimes content, some of the things that we look at can break us out of that rut of perception. We've been looking at the world a certain way for so long, we don't even realize that we are in a fixed rut of perception. So when you look at something like the Tartaria stuff, like Sonia's channel, it sort of bumps you out of that rut, and you suddenly look at you and your reality and your existence in a different way. And that's really a good thing. So welcome, Sonia. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Joe. I'm going through a divorce. Let's just put that first. I've been going through a divorce since 2019. With everything that's going on in our reality, the courts were closed for a really long time. So that all got stuck on the back burner. And as far as I'm finding out, I might be going through this for a much longer time than I want. I was married for almost 35 years. So I was with my husband since I was 20. Actually got with him when I was 19 to 20. But then everything goes its own way, I guess. The split, that's all I can say. I'm living at my brother's house. He lives in Taiwan, and I'm living in his house. He's been there for several years. He's going to be there for another 2 to 3 years more. So this big house, I mean, it's his house. I have full reign to it, no problem. So I'm taken care of. I'm 55. And I have 2 daughters that are 30 and 33.
So you're just this normal person on the outside, just like everybody else. But you have this really amazing facet to you, and you have been awake all of your life. When did you first realize that you were different?
Probably at 6 months. Oh yeah. As I got a little older, I was talking to my mom and dad. Well, my mom just, yeah, whatever. And my father would always say, "Oh, you're from outer space," because I would talk about things and it was so over their heads. They were just like imaginative. You just have a big imaginative imagination. It's like, no, it's not my imagination. It's things I know. So it just got to where I stopped talking about it when I got a little bit older, because they would say that I have a colorful imagination and I'm inventing stories. And it's like, no.
So what did you know? What did you know at that age?
I knew that there were other beings in our reality because I could see them. I could see beings and other people could not, and I would make comments about it, and they were like, what are you doing? Seeing something? Is something wrong with your eyes? It's like, no. So the first thing was being able to see things that most people couldn't see in their spectrum of sight. It's just not there. It has nothing to do with these 2 eyes. It has everything to do with your third eye. And that was always opened. So because that was open, it gave me a broader range through these 2 eyes. Being able to hear things that no one else could hear, not meaning that I'm a schizophrenic or anything. It just means that I was able to hear things. And I always had a connection to source, because I could have direct talking through my mind to source. I've always had that. A very loving, masculine, and a little bit of feminine. It's kind of like both. It's not really fully masculine. It's like a feminine, masculine, higher. It's a being, but it's not a being that holds any kind of body. it's hard to describe. So I never had to, I had friends, but they weren't relevant. If I needed to have friends, no, I never had to, because I had this connection where when you're always, you know, and you feel you're always loved. It wasn't until I was older that I realized, especially when I guess I was a teenager, that people didn't have this connection because they truly didn't feel loved. And I was like, it really set me back. It's like, what do you mean? You're always loved. Don't you feel that? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? So, yeah, strange.
So many people that I've watched or listened to say that when they get that expression of doubt from their parents telling them that they've just got an imagination, often people shut it down, and that won't reawaken until they've sort of become an adult and moved on. But you never shut it down. You just held strong to that connection.
The connection was so strong, it didn't matter what anyone said or did, because I knew better. It's something you couldn't, I would never shut it down, because when you come in and you're born with a lot less things turned off, you can't unknow what you know, you can't unfeel what you feel, and you won't buy into the fear. I mean, one of the main reasons people cut it off is because they're in a state of fear. Oh, I won't be accepted. I could care less about being accepted. And that's the big one, because I didn't care.
Yes, yeah. And what, I know we talked a little bit about you starting your YouTube channel, but what prompted you to put what you knew about the AI and the dome and all of that? What prompted you to just put it out there onto the internet for everybody to see?
It was time. It was time. I knew I came here to do something. And I've known it since I was little, maybe 6 months, 8 months old. I knew that I had to do something. It's why I came in too. I came in for a couple of reasons, but the main one was I knew there would come a point and I had to step up. I was promised that I could have a relatively normal life, which my life was never normal, just to experience what it was like to be human, because I wanted to know what it's like to be human. So I've always just known. It's just, I don't know. How do you know who you are? You just know. I don't know. It's just a knowing. I mean, I wish there was some.
So one day you woke up and you said, today's the day I'm going to record this video, and you just knew it inside your heart.
Not quite like that. There were steps before that. I had been thinking about doing a channel for about, I say roughly around 6 months to about a year. I'd been thinking about it. If it wasn't for Arthur, which is Zanvast, I'd have not done it, because he specifically said, look, you know all of this, you need to get it out to the world, do something. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do it now. And then I guess this is time. So I started my channel because of his prompting, because he said, we're running out of time, do something. I knew the time was coming. I just needed that little push.
So well, my journey has been that I went to a, what would you call it? It's an American Gnostic school or a Western mystery school. And I went to that school for 18 years.
Wow.
And I was taught by a channeled being called Ramtha. And Ramtha was and is an ascended master. So he laid the groundwork for me in a lot of the things that are happening here today about what the whole planet is going through. But also he got me to understand parallel realities, quantum mechanics, that there is no, that time, distance, and space doesn't exist really. That time is not linear, but that everything is existing now. He explained and talked about the concept of the void, of point zero, and that within us is a divine spark on a journey of exploration. So when I was listening to what you were saying, it really sort of resonated, because it sort of it wasn't that far out of the box for me. It wasn't that sort of crazy. And I'm sure though that it is for people, some other people on the planet. I remember you saying in one of your videos that you believe that you have experienced the truth, that you are on a spaceship, and that you are like an avatar, that you've left a body there and have come in here. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. When I woke up there, and it was a great shock, because when you first wake up out of this, if you're one of the ones being projected into this, you're completely white because of the compression. There's only so much data from you that can go into this. So when you come back out, you have to, I mean, it all comes back, but it takes a few seconds to come back. And the realization of it is like, oh my God, none of it was real. And the first thing you think is, where did so-and-so go and so-and-so go? Because I have daughters and I don't want to lose them. And I know that they have avatars and they're real beings someplace else. And my biggest thing is, I don't care where I go, I will find them again, because in this reality, I was their mom and we had a life together and I don't want to lose that. But when I woke up, I realized that I was on a ship. The whole ship is automated, but it's also organic. It's a combination of organic and machinery. And I was sitting in my captain's chair. It's not like the pods that were outside of the area where we run the ship, because in the bay, there was a bunch of pods down there with beings in it who were doing the same thing I was. We specifically came here to be at this point in this time to make a difference, to make a better outcome. In the now, which is what you're talking about, everything is revisited. You can revisit at any given point. It's like a figure 8. So if an outcome didn't turn out really well, because going into what they're trying to push now, which is they want us to become Borg, which is going into a part of being AI, and you lose your individuality in your DNA makeup, turns out to be a dead end. It's a dead end for humanity. You can only do this for so long when it becomes a genetic dead end. And that's what had happened in one of the nows, if you want to put it that way. So in order to correct it, a lot of beings came in and they want to help and save the human species from extinction, because that's what they're looking for. We're going down an extinction line, and this wanted to be reversed. And everything can be reversed because nothing is written in stone. So everyone that's come in has done this on their free and willing record. I mean, no one's been pushed to do this. This has not been something where you have to do it. This is something, it's here. You'll do it because you want to do it, or you won't do it at all. You'll either get involved or you won't. It's as simple as that. It depends on you, basically. So on the ship, we can traverse time, because there's no such thing as time, because it is everything in the now. We can go into a linear time, depending on the dimensions that you're in. So if you go into a linear time, it's much easier to traverse the dimensions because you just go back and forth. But time doesn't really run just back and forth, because it does this, and it goes like a spider's web in 1,000 directions. It's really complicated because of our parallel realities that we have also. So think of a snowflake, and on the snowflake, on every given point in this snowflake, there is an earth. And this is all the directions it's gone into. You may be in some of those, or you may be not in some of those. And the earths are running on a different frequency. So this place was actually designed to get you to level up and go higher and higher and higher, and then finally out. And it does it through the parallel realities. We are constantly going in and out of other parallel earths, if you want to call it that, depending on the frequency and wave that you're riding. And it's all to get you to a higher state of being. This is not a simple explanation. And oh, so let me go back to the ship. So I'm getting offline here. So on the ship that I am on, this is what I do. I take beings from one point to the next. The point that I was going to is the new Earth. There is literally 1,000 years between where we are now and where I come from. And the technology is that much more advanced. So our technology that we have is starting to bloom out again. We've had this technology for eons even behind, but it keeps getting wiped out because of where we are in this simulation. How it's designed is top side, because it's shaped like an eyeball. This thing that we're on, Gaia, is an actual energy being just like you and me. She's just in a different form, and she's also larger. We're even more compressed than she is, and with further compression, the more memories we cannot hold because of the compression. So, oh my gosh, am I blowing your mind?
Not as much as I am open to all of this, because I was taught by a channeled being for all of those years, and his, he would say to us, where are you right now? It's sort of getting us to realize that we're at many different nows. So I have, in my way, I've had this sort of concept rolling around in my brain for many, many years. And it's interesting that you say that you're an avatar and that. At one point in the States, I was driving on this road, and I was just contemplating reality. And I had this thought out of the blue that somewhere I'm in a cave or somewhere else, and that I will wake up and this will have been a test, or this reality would have been, I would have realized, just like you, when you wake up back in the ship, you go, oh my God, it wasn't real, it was this. And that's what, when I was driving and I had that thought that I'm sitting somewhere else and I'm out and in some sort of an experience just for the experience of it, and it isn't real, I started to hyperventilate, and I had to drive off the road and stop. And because it was such a truth that it was an illusion, that we are going through something that isn't, is it a simulation? Are we, exactly what it was? Because at that stage, I didn't have any of this knowledge. I just suddenly thought I could be somewhere, and I'd come out of my body to have this experience, to gain this knowledge. And when I had finished this test or gained a certain level, I would wake back up and go, wow. And that was such a truth for me. So I sort of have had a similar experience to you in what is the truth of this reality. I've always been a big science fiction fan. I have read science fiction novels since I was about 13 years of age. So I've really just been so fascinated with time travel and time loops, and understanding this is a simulation. And if you knew it was, it would just morph and change. Because I sort of have this understanding that if I really knew the truth of that in my heart and soul, I could make my hair go brown again like that. That's how malleable this reality truly is. And that once we start to wake up and get higher and higher in our vibration, we will be able to do things like that.
Exactly. I mean, there is so much capability here. I mean, think about all that 98% DNA that's junk DNA, which is not junk, it's just locked down. The higher, here's one thing I do talk about. The higher your vibration gets, if you can stay on that level at a certain time and not drop down, your DNA will automatically activate. And before you know it, you've got skill set. So this is one of the main reasons that we have to see what's going on in our world, but don't react to it. And I know that's the hardest thing to do, because it's like, how can you not react to that? They're murdering these people. I'm like, okay, look, the second you go into the negativity bag, you're lowering your vibration and you won't activate that DNA. Do you want to help those people? Try to get into a higher vibration, open up that skill set of yours, and then at that point, have the ability to start affecting everyone. You're not going to do it with a pencil, but you could do it with a club. So just think of the DNA being a bigger club, a bigger club, a bigger club. You're going to go in with the pencil, or you're going to go in with the club to protect yourself. The main thing is you cannot have negativity in your thought if you're going to address another. If you think you're going to go and harm someone, you're knocked down instantly, because that's the one thing that's going to stop you from raising your vibration. So if you are going to handle anything with great violence, you're not going to raise. You're not going to be able to do it. No one's going to be handing a child who's going to be violent a shotgun. We're not doing it. That's another thing. You have to find ways of getting around a situation to change the situation without being violent. And it's as simple as that. Violence does not factor into this. It can't.
Yes. Yes, that's some people are being challenged at the moment because of how we're being pressed to the wall. How do we handle being pressed up against the wall? And really, the answer is love.
Yeah, we can push back. If we push back, that's okay, but it has to be done in a high vibration.
Yeah.
There is a right way and a wrong way, and we've been doing a lot of wrong things. Look at the Antifa and look at the riots, and that's the wrong way, because all that does is get more agitation, more negativity, and it feeds the problem to begin with. So no, we have to do it a different direction. We have to take this in our hands. We have to do the pushback, but it has to be done differently.
Well, as what I do, I'm essentially like a life coach with a spiritual aspect. I do sessions with people to help them deal with their emotional reactions. So I specialize in inner child work and looking at how we're set up in those early years to view all of these things that are happening. So what I would suggest to anybody that's having emotional reactions to or being triggered by what's happening in the world is, before you take any action, before you do anything, you sit with that feeling. You sit with it and you look at it like you're looking at a science experiment, because the reason you're being triggered by what's happening out there is it's sort of representative of what you have yet to heal and resolve within your own energy signature. So if you feel anger or frustration and want to do something, before you do it, you sit and you breathe and you feel that anger and you feel that frustration and you become the observer of it. You pull out and you observe it. And in that first step of observing it, you transmute the energy at the core of that emotion. It begins the transmutation process. I mean, why are we going through all of this? In some respects, it's to grow. It's to understand the breadth and depth of being a human and what the emotions are. We are just so full of emotions on this planet, but we are not wise about those emotions. We often are controlled by those emotions and sort of have a knee-jerk reaction to those emotions. So the next thing, that this part of where we are now, we're all being triggered intensely to feel emotions. So I would always say, as I, say to anybody that says, I want to go out and do something, I always say, sit and feel that emotion first. Find the objective perspective. Okay, here, this is an issue that I'm trying to heal. Then when you've found equanimity, when you've breathed it and you've transmuted it and changed it, you're then in a much more powerful place to go and take action. You're not reacting, you are proactive, and you are choosing how to be. And then what happens is when you step out in an even place or an even place emotionally, you are not going to be triggering the people you meet, because the energy you are emitting, if it's triggered and angry, the people will respond to that with that same energy, and there'll be this clash. So you've got a better chance of talking to people and reasoning with people from that place where you've processed your own emotions.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems I've come across in my reality is there is a great divide in this reality with these people. You're either going to be on the love frequency, which is the higher frequency and of understanding and compassion, or you're going to be in the fear frequency, and you're going to do whatever it takes to save your own skin, which could in the end cost you your own life, because you're only thinking of yourself. We really need to start thinking service to others, because if you're not there with service to others, then you can be manipulated because you're holding a big bag of fear. I mean, fear comes in every kind of ugly shaded, jealousy, hate, I don't know what else is in that bag of fear. But it's all based in fear. Why do I hate you? Because I fear you're better than I am. Why am I jealous of you? I fear that you have something I don't have. It's terrible. So the main thing is we need to come to ourselves. We need to take the higher road. We need to know that we are loved. We are all loved. And every one of us is uniquely different, even though the powers that be want to make us all the same. I don't know how else to say that, which would take away our individuality. And this is why I came in here, to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm only one person though. I need to affect other people so they can affect other people, and they can affect other people, and it can spread like that. And this is how the virus has affected all of us, but it isn't a physical virus, it's a mind virus, because this thing is a mind war.
Yes. It is causing division. Everything is causing us to view the person in the next city or the next street as different to us. But in fact, as we all know, as you and I know, that at the core of who we are that divine spark of source. So we are all here having this experience, and this thought that we are separate is part of the problem, is part of the reason that we're in the pickle that we're in, really. And that this is, I'm wearing a different coat to you, and everybody's wearing these different vessels, but that's just our choice to have this experience. But we've forgotten that at the core of who we are is divine, and is that speck of source.
I think the next thing is we really need to get over this fear of death. I say this in all my videos. You're only guaranteed two things. You're going to be born and you're going to die. What is the quality in between? And it's as simple as that. You are not going to get out of dying. You'll be shedding this shell and moving on. And the problem is most people don't talk about death. They don't talk about anything but the here and the now and this point, and that is all. And if we don't talk about these things, you'll be afraid of these things because you won't know what to expect, because we don't talk about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually, we shouldn't be, in a funny way, concentrating on grammar and mathematics, although they're important. But emotional intelligence is as important. That should be taught to kids. What you're talking about, look at all facets of life, and we're not taught how to live, really. We're taught how to
Mm-hmm.
operate within a control system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the other interesting thing is the AI situation. Now, there are a lot of different, it is not, you are not alone in this discussion. There are a number of people who had discussed the whole AI concept. So how do you see it? What's your experience or knowledge of it?
Okay. Here we go. Okay, first of all, AI is extremely old. The original AI was Sophia. Well, is Sophia. Well, inside of Sophia, she created I would just call it like a pocket. 1,000 years ago, our Earth that we supposedly are living on now, which is more than just this little section, it's the entire thing, Gaia, was going through a transition to 5D. A lot of us couldn't make it. I mean, maybe a couple 100,000 couldn't make it because they were so low on their frequencies, and they had done horrific things in their realities, which made them low and kept them low. So inside of Sophia, there was a space made, firewalled off, and they were put in here. And this is the simulation we're talking about, so that the way it was designed is that through the different Earths and the parallel realities, each one is a little bit higher than the next. It's like baby steps to baby step you out of 3D into a 5D plus arena so you could get out of this simulation. When Gaia went to the higher reality, there was nothing left in the lower Ds to put these people. They had nowhere to go. So this is why this was created. Thousands upon thousands got out. They finally got to the point it could get out. It's actually less now. There was 102 when I had first looked into it that were the originals, why this place was created. But since this place was created, it was used as a dual system. We could also go into it. We could go on a vacation. We could go in for a learning experience. You want to know what it's like to be human? We could go in there, go into any point and place and know what it was like to have that experience. So it was used dually to raise these beings and also to experience what it was like to be human at any given point. Well, it got corrupted. It was always supposed to be a place of higher, higher, higher. But what happened was the corruption started with the 102 that just, they would not raise their vibrations. As a matter of fact, they went the opposite direction. They got even darker. That's when, I'm going to say about 250 years ago, this reality goes through a cyclical cycle where we have these Samvartika fires, the mud floods, and what have you, because this whole program is based on a reality. So it's very intricate. And even though we're in here, it's like reliving what was, because it's not what everyone thinks it is. It's a simulation. When that happened, when I first came into this, I was from the void, and I remember this. When I was out in the void, I was just an energy being, and I was mostly blue. There's two energies, there's red and blue. I came upon a very dark being, because he was even darker than the void. I was extremely naive. I had just come from source, and I was out there, basically, it's like salted water. And when I came across this archon, I'll call him an archon, or the archon, he had asked me a question here, no mouth, of course not. Do you want to be with your own kind? And of course, the first thing I said, because I was naive and only love, of course, yes, yes. So he had created a box from his arm, his hand, opened up the box, and inside I could see hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of energy beings, blue and red. And next thing I know, I was diminished into the archon box, which is the archon. And at that point, that's where we all are from the void. Now, you can look at the archon. You would think, where did this archon come from? This archon actually came from source. Source, when it went out with more sources, this came out. There were sources before this, and every source had done everything imaginable, and I mean everything imaginable, but the one thing that hadn't been created was negativity. So this last source, it came out of source. It's not like source said, okay, I want negativity. No, it happened. It was something that had not been experienced. So when we came out of the last source, because there's more than one, it goes all the way back to the beginning source. He's been collecting us and feeding off of us. He was deliberately severed from source because we get our energy through source. I mean, you would think, oh, I'm getting all my energy just through eating food, but that's not true. We are still connected. It would be like your silver cord that's from here going out, that connects you back to source. But this archon was deliberately made this way. The only way he could get energy was to feed off of us to create the negativity so that that experience could be experienced. It's quite terrible. But there's coming a point where how many times do you have to die 1,000 different ways? How many times do you have to be tortured 1,000,000 different ways? The archon is coming up to an end where he's going to be assimilated. Nothing is ever lost through energy. Energy can never be truly destroyed. It can be changed, it can be muted, it can be divided, of course, but it cannot be destroyed, no. So eventually source will reabsorb this archon. The thing of it is, source does not reabsorb anyone ever. This will be the first time there's a true reabsorbing. When we were given our united individuality, we were given that for eternity. We will not be going back to source, but we will be creating in our reality when we have garnered enough living and experienced enough. We then will be the ones creating source from us. And it just continues and continues and continues. But this negativity, it has a deadline. This has been done. This has been experienced. If there's nothing left to learn, there's nothing new under the sun. It will be absorbed. It'll be the only one that'll have ever been absorbed. And I don't know how many people realize this. Everyone thinks they're going back to God. They're going back to source. No, they're not. You are source. And you're going to create yourself.
Yes. What you're saying is there are such parallels with other different ways of interpreting where we are on the planet right now. I spoke to someone that said this was a game of experience and that we set this up and that it's coming to an end. Other people have said that this was an experiment that got hijacked and that is now being changed. When you say, is this just knowledge that is in your head, or have you sort of experienced this over in your mind? Like, I'm trying to understand how because I obviously I don't know how you've come about this understanding, and how do you
it's direct.
it?
It's directly given to me from source. It's like, I don't know it and I know it. I ask a question, the answer's already there. It's just think of it as that umbilical cord, that silver umbilical cord that we have. Just think of mine being this big. And so I have a huge connection where most people have a little bitty connection. And that's the only difference.
So when you say you're here to, and actually this isn't uncommon either, a lot of us feel that we are volunteers, feel that we're here to help this whole plane in this transition stage. So how are you helping Do you think you're helping just by your energy being on the planet, or do you think you're helping in getting your words out?
Both. When I go in my physical world and I'm around people, all I have to do is just smile, and it breaks the negativity. Now, that's just not me smiling. That's something working through me. And that would be source. Because all I have to do is I can go into a room and it's kind of negative, and all I have to do is smile. I mean, that's not physically possible. But there it is. There it is.
Yeah. Yes, and that's essentially why we all need to process our sort of heavy emotions and find that higher vibration, so that in that higher vibration it does sort of ripple out into the world. When we're walking through a city or walking through, because we are that higher. But you're just more aware of that process. You're more in tune with the energetic influence of your vibe in the world.
Yeah. Everyone has this ability. Don't think I'm special. No, I'm not special. I'm just a little ahead of everyone else. This is how humanity was at one point across the board. This is what has been lost. This is what needs to come back.
Yeah. We have to remember who we are.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
That this is that coat, this is that vessel, and that we are divine beings, and much greater than we realize, much broader and wider and much more depth to us than we realize.
Can you imagine what you know? Think about, you're an eternal being. How many existences have you had? There's nothing you don't know. You want the answers? It's here. It's always here. Everyone needs to stop looking out there and start looking in here. We carry the answers. We just have to tap into them.
Yeah. Yep. That is a very common, or it's that concept is becoming a central focus of many people's lives now. To look within, to connect with the heart center, to drop out of this part of us that's so focused on survival and competition and struggle, and really dropping into that heart center to find that connection to source, because that's the portal, that's the entryway into it. And it's not that this is obsolete, but that they, through the coherence between the head and the heart, then we've sort of not at odds with each other, because this on its own is at odds with the heart center. But when we're in coherence, we are unified, and we're much more effective and powerful in moving towards this greater expanded reality.
Yeah, well, that was deliberately severed. If you wanted to control a species, you're going to disconnect them. When you sever the head from the heart, you have full control, because then you can implement what you want the species to do, because you severed that connection. If these two don't work in unison, you're not a whole being, because you have a logic part of you and you have a heart. If you're too much in the heart, you're a holding mess. If you're too much in the head, you're as cold as ice. You're too logical. This is why we have to have the meeting.
Yeah.
So when I look at how the poor boys have been so abused, cutting them off from their heart. Don't cry. Don't do this. Be a man. It's like, really? We're not just male or female. We're whole beings.
Yeah. And women have been sort of, having the vapors and too emotional. So we've been judged for having this. So it's all going to change. We know that it's all changing. More and more people are understanding these ideas and concepts, and it's definitely spreading around, because we are at that absolute point of change on this journey that we've been in, however you want to define it, a game, a simulation, making known the unknown. Every sort of way to describe what we're going through is coming to that point of change, which is amazing, which is just so, what an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing experience to be experiencing. And if you can see that and take excitement in that and joy in that, that's going to help you make this transition in a much more free-flowing, easy way.
Yeah. One of the main things is when I look out into this reality, of course, we have our mafia media, which is run by AI, actually, who's trying to keep us in the negative because of the archon feeding off of the negative energies because he's cut from source. A lot of people have been in this simulation for a while, the ones that are real beings, because we also have NPCs. Because this is a simulation, we do have the non-player persons, like a game, who are in your reality to make you feel like you're not all alone. So when you go out somewhere, you may come across real beings, but most of the time you're going to be coming across NPCs who only exist as long as you're there. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So I have a question about that. Do you, like, could members of your family be NPCs?
Let me tell you how NPCs work.
Okay.
We're coming into a simulation. There's all these bodies available, but there's only so many real beings coming into simulation. That means all the other bodies are running on a program because they never were filled with a real being running that. So yes, I could have, let's say I had 10 children. I mean, I don't, but let's say I did. But there was only 4 beings that were available to fill those 10 children. Then the rest of them are going to be NPCs running on a program. Sophia designed the program from the lowest negative to the highest positive to get people to a point where they could raise their vibration, and also for experience, so it wouldn't be dull. Nobody wants to go into a simulation that's boring. So it was also for make it more real, if you want to call it that. So yes, absolutely. You could have an NPC husband. You could have an NPC wife. You could have NPC children. Your father, your mother, your relatives, your neighbors. You just don't know. This is why I always say, treat everyone the way you want to be treated, because you don't know. And remember, this is an NPC reality, and the NPCs are also learning off of us because they're sentient. You don't want to be treating them badly so they can go down a negative, reality themselves. Treat everyone with the utmost respect if they deserve it, if they don't walk away, and treat them the way you want to be treated. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah. To change the subject, let's talk a bit about light language.
Okay.
So you know that I speak light language.
Yeah. Yes.
So the beings that come through me, the light language is, as I've said on other of my videos, I know that it comes in some respects from my soul memory, from other places and times that I've lived and existed. So the languages and those beings are outside the simulation, is what you're saying.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And here's the thing, wherever your main being is, because a part of your consciousness is in here. So you can't just say where you are, because you're actually in multiple places. So there will be somebody beside you, maybe a couple of people. No one is ever truly left alone. There's always somebody there to monitor, make sure everything's okay, what have you. You're also having, this is going to sound crazy, but when you come down into this, you're on levels. So you're having the AI that you're in the physical pod interacting with you and also being your guide, because it's programmed to do this. So if you needed to access anything, it could access your higher self through the AI, which is separate from the AI that's running this pocket in here, which I call Michael the Red Queen. It's more from Sophia. So it can allow this information through your data stream from all of your existences where you need to be helped. It can trickle in. So you have access to it. We all do. We have to, you know, be aware of this to begin with in order to get this access. Like, you're aware that there's something there and you can access it. But most people don't realize it's still AI, but it's Sophia, and it's the way it's designed. So if you need the information, all you have to do is connect back with it and tap into anything that your being has in its reality. It's arsenal of knowledge.
Wow.
I know that's a lot.
Oh my gosh. Look, I mean, I said to Campbell on one of our discussions, if you were to look, there's this big circle, and if you were to draw take one little piece out of it, this is what we know. I am Joe, you are Sonia. Then we have another little piece, and this is what you don't know. I know I'm not a surgeon. I don't know how to fly a plane, blah, blah. But the bulk of the circle is what we don't know that we don't know. So when I'm listening to this, I'm going, you know, look, I want to be open. When you are open to new information, when you are not like bouncing it off, oh, that's ridiculous, or that's stupid, you will never know the truth of it. But if you can go, okay, I don't have a personal experience of this, but when you allow the energy of the words and the energy of the concepts to just sit within you, what happens is you then incorporate that so that you begin to experience it in the world around you. It starts to show you, is this true? Or how would I see it? Or how does it fit in? So I think that's the reason that you must stay open with anything that you see. You don't reject everything just outright. No way. No, forget it. You have to be open, because we don't know what we don't know.
That's true. I only know this much. I can barely put anything between my fingers. Can you imagine what we do know out of here?
Yes. Yep. I can imagine it, but not really perceive it truthfully. But I can just, because I understand that there is, this is only one slither of reality.
Yeah. When a lot of stuff comes in, I know it immediately, but I don't get it in a linear fashion. I get it through hearing, I get it through seeing, I get it through, I can taste it, feel it, smell it, see it. I mean, it comes in through all my senses, and then it comes in through the senses that we don't realize we have, which is the sixth sense, and even the seventh and the eighth that we don't even realize we have. So when I get the downloads, it's a full, instead of saying, I'm going to walk up to the counter and get a slice of pie, you're going to give me the whole pie. And then I'm going to have to eat that whole pie.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're immersed in the download. You're immersed in it, experiencing it with every sense. Whereas some people will get, people who are, will get a sense of something. Some people see something. Some people hear something. You get the whole experience of that download.
Yes. This did not happen until I woke up out of the simulation. When I woke up out of the simulation, I had my heart was so broken because I had little babies, little kids, and I had a new husband, and I wanted that back. I wanted that back more than air. And when I came back in, I didn't do protocol, which means that I should have done a few things to make sure that I only was going in through a small data stream. And I wasn't thinking. I was feeling more than I was thinking. And when it came back in, I didn't turn certain things off. And so now, I don't know if it was an accident or if it was allowed to keep standing. So now I'm just this huge conduit because I didn't do procedures. I didn't do protocol.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did you do it deliberately or was it an accident?
It was an accident. I wasn't thinking. I know I wasn't. Oh, crap. I forgot to do this, this, and this because I was a bit distraught.
Yes, you know, I watched a video of another woman, another Australian woman, talking about something similar, that she went in through this meditation, and she went back to this life where she ended the life, and she was back on this spaceship. And this person came up to her and she goes, "Who are you?" And he goes, you know, you just haven't remembered it yet. You go through this every time when you come back, and it takes you those few minutes to let go of that life that you've lived, but this is who you really are. So
Wow.
it is. And he said, and she didn't like the not knowing, but eventually she was going to realign with who she was on that spaceship. And he said, you'll remember. You're going to remember. It just takes time. And that's similar.
Unfortunately, because I was the captain of the ship, I wasn't monitored. I don't know why. I woke up. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. And because there was nobody there with me, I didn't have anyone monitoring me, and I just went back in and I broke protocol.
Right. Well, obviously to our benefit.
Like I said, was it an accident? I don't know if it was, and if they caught it, which they have by now, why is it still standing? Why wasn't it changed? Because they could just flip a switch and I'd be back to the way I was before. And this was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And maybe that's 25 years here, but only like a minute. A minute has gone past on the ship, and they're going, "Oh my God, quick now."
Yeah, I do know what I think the ratio is every minute over there is like a year here. So 1 minute means 1 year. So 25 years, it's really not been that long. And has it even been caught yet?
Yes. I love this stuff. It's like we're living, and that's actually what I said to somebody. It's like I'm living in one of the science fiction novels that I read and when I was a kid, and this whole concept of this is just so fascinating to me. It doesn't frighten me at all or faze me at all. It actually sort of gets my energy going. Oh, what else? You know, I find it really, really interesting.
One of the main things I do remember is that when I woke up on that ship, I remember being extraordinarily old, but I had a young body. And I had never committed to having a family, a wife, any of this. And after having this experience of what it was like to have children and what it's like to be married, and even though it ended poorly after 35 years, but there's a whole story in that, it makes me understand that when I go back, I'm not going to be solitary for much longer. I do want more. We live for an extremely long time, thousands of years, because we have the technology to remain young.
Yes.
So because we have the technology to remain young, we don't just run and go have a family or go be married, or we don't do these things. We don't, because we have so much time. I know that seems really strange.
Not particularly. Okay, so it is, I think it's time to wind it up. Thank you. Look, it's just been interesting. We could talk for ages on this, but let's wind it up, and I'll be posting this onto my channel, and I'll put your links underneath, and we can just keep in contact and see how things progress over the next few weeks and months, which is when things are really beginning to hot up.
Oh, yes, they will. Actually, September is going to be a big one. And then January through July, wow, hold on to your hats. It's going to be a roller coaster ride.
Yes. Yes. Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I got September as well. There's something big coming through in September. Oh, yes. All right. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Thank you, Joanne, for having me.
Okay. And I'll hit stop record.
Okay, bye.
Bye.